Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. It's one of my favorite topics. I'm going to change the title to what I originally wanted, which is, Dude, Where's My Traffic? Winning in the Age of AI Overviews. If you guys all saw Dude, Where's My Car? You would get the reference. I don't know if it's a little bit cheesy, but entertaining movie. At least I watched it when I was a little kid. So today we have a few speakers with us. I'm Neil Patel. I'm the co-founder of NP Digital. We're a global ad agency. We also have Matt Santos with us and Will as well. Matt, do you want to give a quick introduction of yourself? And then Will, you can do the same right after.
Yeah, I would love to. It's always a pleasure to be here side by side with Neil. I'm Matthew Santos. I am the Chief Product Officer at our small to medium business branch, which is called NPXL. I've been with the company for quite some time now, and we specialize in assisting small to medium businesses with end to end marketing. A lot of my experience has always been in small to medium businesses. I've worked, strategized, assisted with thousands of campaigns over the last decade plus, and excited to bring you some knowledge today around AI, AIO, and where your traffic may be going.
Yeah, and I'm William Kammer. I'm the VP of SEO for NPXL. I work kind of hand in hand with Matt, and been in the business for a long time. Been through a lot of these disruptive changes in the industry. This one's a little different, and excited to kind of dig in and kind of cover where we're at today with it. It might be different tomorrow, but today we'll let you know what's going on.
So NP Digital, we're a global agency with 1,000+ people, quite a few different countries, 28 plus countries, won a lot of awards, worked with a lot of big brands, worked with a lot of SMBs as well. I know their logos are on the slide. And we just see a lot of data. So today, keep in mind when we're breaking down what's happening with people's traffic, how to adapt and how to win in today's world, keep in mind it's coming from a place where we're actually implementing this, we're seeing it work. And if you just take at least one or two of the things that you learned today and implement them, you'll be better off. But before we dive in, here's a quick story. We work with this company that wanted to get in the AI overviews. They're a large medical cosmetic clinic. And they're just like, man, we're losing traffic because of AI overviews. And we're like, all right, let's look at the keywords. Let's look at what's actually driving revenue for the business. We focus on the keywords that were more money oriented, in which they're driving conversions, because at the end of the day, when a business is doing marketing, if they can't drive more revenue, it doesn't really matter. And we were able to get in AI overviews in roughly 24 hours. And one of the things we did quite a few different things, but one of the things that we did was we looked at the intent for the keywords that they were ranking for or trying to rank for, looked at what AI overviews were pulling, and we made sure that in concise bullets, we provided better information that was helping people solve their problem based on the keyword and the phrases that they were typing in to maximize their visibility, got them in more AI overviews, helped grow their revenue, and it worked out really well. And we've been doing this for a lot of companies. And let's be clear, people are like, man, my rankings are all down. My traffic's just so bad. The algorithms are changing. Sometimes it's rankings, sometimes it's algorithms, but more recently what we're seeing is you're not really losing any rankings. Your content still ranks. It just doesn't appear where the user is taking action all the time. Where the user is taking action is shifting to things like AI overviews and other AI modals and visual elements, which are displacing the 10 blue links that most people know Google search for. And for a while, Google really hasn't technically always shown quote unquote 10 blue links on a home page, but it's just what we're used to. And visibility, when people think about it, they're just like, man, if I'm not getting the clicks, I'm not getting conversion, which is very untrue. In this new AI world, you can actually capture conversions without capturing as many clicks. And we'll discuss some of these things going forward as well. And what's happening is in reality, you're losing SERP real estate, right? Because a lot of the real estate is taken over by things that are not just quote unquote traditional organic results. And you can see here for whether it's navigational, informational, and transactional, whether it's branded content, zero click, AI overviews, it's starting to appear in a lot of different areas, which is affecting the quote unquote SERP real estate, which is what's affecting quote unquote clicks, especially on mobile devices.
All right, so let's jump into part one. We'll have 3 parts today that we'll be going over, but let's start diagnosing where potentially your traffic may be going. So it's not new news to a lot of brands. I think you've all felt it within your analytics or search console or different analytic platforms, but organic traffic is declining, even for some of the biggest players out there, even for the winners in your space. So websites that are holding top spots are still seeing major traffic dips. AI overviews are satisfying user intent instantly, and a lot of users don't feel the need to click through. Nowadays, the way we need to start looking at our analytics is not so much that traffic is everything. Visibility and traffic are no longer the same thing. We need to keep these things in pretty much 2 separate buckets. So the old SEO tactics of winning the keyword and getting to the top of page 1 just isn't enough anymore. And the shift can be visible, as you can see on the chart on the right, of B2B and B2C. Both major sectors are being hit by this. You'll see B2B lost around 11% in traffic, but it did gain about 2% in conversions. And on the B2C side, about a 20% dip in traffic and about a 3% dip in conversion. So we want to start analyzing that to better understand, even though on the B2B side where traffic may be dipping, are you seeing higher quality traffic that's actually converting at a slightly higher rate coming to your website? Why rankings don't equal clicks anymore? So based on what I said before, there's a lot of analysis that we've been trying to conduct to better understand why AIOs isn't just grabbing the top 10 blue links on a SERP and where is it really pulling citations from. Over half of all searches now end in 0 clicks, and this is from SparkToro. So you'll see back in 2019, we've been dealing with a 0 click world for quite some time. I mean, Google would have the people also ask, they would have knowledge graph, they would have their 0 click section right at the top where it kind of answered a question if it was like informational for you. But now in 2025, we've seen that jump to almost 60% of no click searches. And what's occurring is users are just skimming summaries and glancing at these panels on the SERP and getting what they need and moving on pretty quickly. Where before click-through rate used to be predictable, now it's situational based on either navigational, transactional, or informational type of query. And we just need to better study based on industries, what is the type of content and how we could get you placed into these AIO sections. What AI overviews are actually doing on the SERPs. So AIOs are basically blending content from multiple different sources. And obviously we all know they are dominating the visual hierarchy. As you can see on the right, the standard SERP that we've dealt with for the past probably 5 to 7 years now has been paid, is always right at the top. You'll usually have some sort of feature like a knowledge graph or a certain panel from Google or Maps or something like that. And then you would get into your 10 blue links. But nowadays you have AIO superseding even the paid section of the SERP. And so that hierarchy really has shifted. And like what Neil said in the beginning, especially on mobile, we're really seeing those 10 blue links get pushed far down the scroll path. So again, this is happening both on organic and paid placements. And search results are turning more into interactive answers and not so much just the 10 blue links.
And the last study I saw, I believe it is around 12%. And that number is related to the AI overviews, in which it used to be where they're always at top, but now roughly 12% of the time they're not the #1 listing. So they're testing putting it in the middle or a little bit lower. And we'll see how that goes. I think what they're doing there is they know AI overviews are valuable, assuming the response is good. But for some queries, AI overviews could be somewhat useful, but they're not always useful, compared to other queries. So they're testing, placing it in different areas, I'm assuming, depending on the query type and the intent. So then that way they're providing the best experience.
Great point. So traditional versus AI-powered result pages. So the traditional SERPs, like I said, used to offer the 10 blue links in a clear ranking order. The AI-driven search now, they rearrange elements dynamically based on that query type. And it's kind of what Neil was just saying, right? Like most of the time, we're probably going to see AIs over the top. But again, you may see that SERP shift around where paid may go back up to the top, or knowledge panel, or maps, whatever the query and the intent behind the query is. Google is trying to do a better job of just trying to get you the best experience possible based on the intent behind the query. So what users are seeing will depend on your device, your behavior history, and your result formats or websites that you may have clicked on the past. So Google's trying to just predict what may create the best experience for you. And what we can see with the chart on the left is a basic search versus traditional search when it came to traffic and sales. You'll see the B2C side, when it came to traditional search, there was about a 27.5% of the time, and about kind of 0.5% in regards of AI search going about and showing that data. On the B2B side, you'll see a 3% chance.
Sorry to cut you off, Matt. The easiest way for you guys to think about it, this was a study, I believe, I can't read the numbers on the footnote, but I believe it was like around 50 B2B companies and 40 something B2C companies with revenues in excess of like 10 or $15 million. Sorry, the numbers are a little tough for me because I'm getting older and I'm on an iPad here in Hong Kong. I didn't bring my actual laptop. But, what we were looking at is how much traffic are people getting from traditional search, like a Google, a Bing? And then how much traffic are people getting from AI search, like LLMs like ChatGPT, AI mode, Gemini? You guys get the point, right? Although I know with AI mode, there's tracking issues and what Google will show you versus what they won't show you. And what we saw on the B2B side and B2C side is traditional search makes up most of traffic compared to AI search. So 27% of the traffic for B2C and roughly 21.5% of the overall digital sales. The AI search EX like ChatGPT is making up 0.49% of the traffic, whether it's ChatGPT, Perplexity, etc., but it's making up 11.4% of total sales. And you're seeing something similar with B2B as well. And what's happening is with traditional search, people type in a query, they do the research by clicking on results and going to different websites. With AI search, they're doing their research within the LLM and continuing asking questions and doing follow-up prompts and doing their research. And then they're clicking over when they're ready to make a purchase or engage or interact, right? So the intent is much different. You're not going to get as much traffic from these AI platforms, but the conversion rate from what we're seeing is drastically higher, which makes up for it. In essence, they're doing the research on platform instead of going to your website to do the research.
Excellent breakdown. So Google's new top competitor essentially is itself, right? Like I think a lot of us know that Google's number one revenue source is ads. And obviously they want to continue pushing traffic towards organic websites, their ad links. But on top of that, with AIO and a lot of other features like AI mode, Gemini, there are a lot of sources of traffic that are now funneling in that direction. So Google is now trying to become the publisher, the source, and the destination. Its own products like YouTube, Maps, Shopping, AIOs, they are crowding any sort of external content. Now, they are pulling from a lot of external content, and most of the time we do see in AIOs that external content is being cited, so you can funnel through and click through. But again, they are trying to become that end-all, be-all for a lot of queries. You're not just competing with brands anymore. You're basically competing with Google as a platform. Fewer clicks, higher intent. So this is going back to even just the study that Neil was just breaking down. While fewer users are clicking, the ones who do are more qualified. And what we're finding is they're either doing a lot of that research in the LLM and making the most educated decision a lot quicker now because all the information is just aggregated for them so that they can hopefully buy in less touch points. And even when they come to Google, the answers that they're being given on the SERP are helping inform them to help make that decision quicker. So if it's a transactional type of query, we are noticing that traffic that does flow through to the website is a little bit more qualified and hopefully converting at a higher percentage, depending on the industry. Visitors arriving from AI-enhanced SERPs tend to scroll deeper, stay longer, and convert better once they get to your actual landing page or website. In Google I/O, they just did their developer conference several months back, Google I/O 2025, and they did confirm that these clicks are higher quality when they do make their way to your landing page or website. And nowadays, the way that we need to start looking at SEO on the SERP is starting to emphasize more around engagement metrics as opposed to just sheer volume like we did in the past, especially in this AI first landscape. So engagement metrics may be scroll length, time on site, number of pages clicked through. These are the metrics that we need to start paying a little bit more attention to make sure that we are optimizing around conversions and around user experience. You're not competing with sites, you're competing with basic summaries. So like I said before, AIOs will sometimes cite just one domain, but most of the time what we're starting to see nowadays is AIO is pulling from dozens of sources to create a single composite answer. So if you don't see a citation, that's probably because it's aggregating information to try and give you the best answer. Or what you may see is kind of like the image on the right, where there's an answer at the top, but it is pulling from 3 sources and it is giving you the exact links to those 3 sources right below. So this means that you're not just fighting with competitors anymore. You're also fighting with just the aggregation of these algorithms and this machine learning. And to win in this new landscape, you must influence what gets summarized, not just who's ranking. So what Google's AI agents mean for your funnel? Google's AI agents can now guide users through full decision-making workflows. We've seen some examples in the Google I/O 2025 conference where they showcased that through, I believe it was through Gemini, you can leverage some of their agentic models to help you buy products online through e-com. So you can basically set, hey, I want to buy this hat, and this is the exact price point that I'm willing to pay for it. Go out and just surf the web and find me the best vendor that has X amount of reviews. And once it hits this price point, that's the trigger, you can set up your Google Pay and it'll then just kind of surf. And once it hits, it'll send you a notification saying, are you ready to buy now? And you can literally click that button. So what we're seeing is these agentic models are going to start coming about to help users with just surfing the web, making decisions, buying products a lot easier for them. Users are trying to compare products, read reviews, and even buy directly from the SERP nowadays. We're seeing those examples within the Google shopping side of things, where some of the shopping listings in Merchant Center, if they're optimized correctly, they won't even have to go to your landing page anymore. They could just buy directly from that SERP. This is basically compressing the sales funnel and cutting out key content points that you used to own. But that is a little bit of a catch-22 in my opinion, because even though your landing page may be getting cut out of the funnel and the buying process, it's still absolutely vital to feeding the correct information to be able to create that experience for an AI agent. So if you have a poorly optimized landing page with poorly optimized content, or you're not updating your in-stock levels, or maybe doing different price points around different holidays, you're not going to show up on the SERP for that experience to occur for a user. So landing pages are still vital in regards of optimization, even though they may be getting cut out of the actual experience. The disappearing click. So behaviors and the shifts in actions that we are seeing. So what you're going to see on the chart on the right is a distribution of AI overviews across industries. So how often may AI overviews may be showing up, and certain SEO fundamentals around correlation in these industries. What you'll see is like health, home and garden are 2 of the top ones. Again, these tend to be more informational, more guides and FAQ based, while people are looking for something in the immediate moment. But search is no longer linear. It's become layered and fragmented, and it's increasingly passive because of what's occurring now, where people are just waiting for the right information to reach them. Users are scrolling, asking follow-up questions, and interacting with modules rather than clicking through to actual websites. And what you're seeing as traffic lost is often just traffic staying inside of Google. So we want to talk in the next section coming up a little bit more about how we can get you into these AI overviews or into these different modules to increase your brand visibility to give you a chance to actually start closing more deals. So going back to the I/O conference that I've referenced, Google's developer conference that they hold every single year, these are a few high-level touch points that Google did tell us. AIOs are now default for most English language queries. Google Lens, which is their glasses product, voice search, wearable technology, Ask with Video, they are all feeding into AIO answers as well. And multi-step prompts mean users can now complete complex research tasks inside the SERP. That's going back to the example that I gave you around the buying of a product. You can also, I think, do it nowadays for even booking a flight, where you can say, look, I'm trying to fly to Orlando. These are my dates. This is the price per ticket that I would love to pay. Let me know whenever this comes up. And so the agentic models can go out there and do those complex research tasks on your behalf. The role of video, voice, and visual search. So again, I know we've talked a lot about this in previous webinars around Gen Z and how they're also impacting a lot of stuff. We've seen how TikTok and other platforms that are visually oriented are starting to become more prominent from like a search experience for these generations. But essentially, Gen Z has the highest visual search adoption rate at about 87%. AIOs are increasingly citing YouTube and prioritizing visual formats depending on the query and the intent behind the query. Voice and image-based search are reshaping content strategy, especially on mobile. AIOs and other platforms are understanding that visual content does help get a message across a lot quicker. And what you'll see here is just a breakdown of how visual search, whether it be male, female, across the different age ranges, is being adopted. From search to summary to sale, all without that website or that landing page as a part of the mix. AIOs are now surfacing transactional click to actions directly, no visit required. We're seeing this within AI mode. We're seeing this within versions of ChatGPT. We're seeing this within the shopping tab of Google through your Google Merchant Center account, where, again, going back to the example I gave before, if you see a certain product that's optimized to the nines, you can click buy now and you won't ever even go to a landing page or to a website. You'll buy directly from the SERP. Now, obviously, that money and that transaction is being attributed to the brand who's selling it. But again, the actual brand itself is kind of being cut out of that experience. So summaries are often including product specs, comparisons, and user reviews. We're seeing this a lot in like LLMs, in Gemini, in AI mode, where if you type in a certain product, it already knows that you're going to want information about the reviews. What are the best reviews, the worst reviews? What are some price comparisons or spec comparisons? And helping just try and drive that transaction right there in that moment and not cause you to have to go out and do this research yourself manually. So this is creating a zero-click conversion path that is bypassing these landing pages entirely. So what you're going to see here on the right is before AI rollout, the zero-click searches versus searches with clicks, you'll see that it went from about a 57% to about a 59% when it came to zero clicks. So that is continuing to increase. And then on the flip side, going to your actual website, so searches that did click through, we are seeing a decrease there of about 42% last year and about 40% this year. So last couple slides here for part one. The quality click, why time on site now matters more than ever. And this is going back to a comment I made before about not so much focusing on volume, but for focusing more on engagement. So what you're going to see is on the traditional search side, you're going to see about 1 minute and 37 seconds is about how long people are staying on those traditional SERP, traditional type of environments on Google. But with AI search, it's about 30 to 40 more seconds that individuals are having deeper conversations and having a better experience with the AI search. So about 2 minutes and 13 seconds that people are sticking around within an AI search conversational model. So AIO users who click are more likely to stay engaged and explore deeper. These sessions show higher scroll depth, lower bounds, and more intense signals. And it's basically, you need to start focusing on optimizing your website for experience and not just basic entry on the SERP. engagement over volume, the new SEO benchmark. So top line traffic isn't the KPI anymore. What you need to be focusing on is qualified traffic, context aware visits. In many cases, fewer clicks are generating more meaningful engagement. So you may be noticing that even though your traffic is dropping, you may be noticing that your page, your time on site, your number of pages visited, the scroll length, if you're using tools like Crazy Egg to understand the heat mapping of how far people are going down on your pages, you may be noticing that some of those engagement metrics are going up if you are optimized correctly. But SEO really just needs to start prioritizing basic content structure, conversion flow, and on-site retention. So scroll depth is that new CTR. What you'll see here is traditional CTR is just unreliable in an AI-powered SERP. You can't just focus on CTR from the SERP to your website. What matters now is how far users are scrolling once they get to your website, how long they're staying on these pages, and how they're interacting with either your content or your call to actions on these pages. So Google is now rewarding content that performs after the click. So essentially, back in the day, elements on the SERP, how you optimize meta tags, meta descriptions, elements like that, and the click-through rate from the SERP did impact how often you would show up. But now, more than ever before, engagement metrics are how AIO and other platforms are going to understand what content is being respected or authoritative the most. So to wrap up this section, I think one of the questions that came through from the audience is what adjustments should we make to our content layout or CTA placement in light of reduced attention spans and AI-assisted scanning? So a couple of different things that you could do to optimize your pages, your content right now, is you'll notice like on Neil Patel's blog, on Search Engine Land, we are starting to put table of contents on either the left or the right within the sidebar. So that's a great way to start at least keeping attention spans a little bit longer by people understanding everything they're about to get into in this piece of content. Other things that we've started noticing that help assist you with either getting into AIOs or getting cited more often in LLMs is trying your best to optimize just the beginning of your content or your blog by either placing bulleted lists, numbered lists, basic FAQs, TLDRs, so too long didn't read, just like a quick summary of what you're about to get into right at the top. Those are other content layout shifts that you could be making within your content. FAQs are a big thing as well. I think FAQs do just a great job of laying out a question and an answer immediately. But then if you can layer that with like some FAQ schema or some how-to schema, that can also assist you with just general technical or content layout. Call to action placement is something that you're just going to have to test. I mean, call to actions, there is no set it and forget it or just silver bullet for CTAs. It's all going to depend on your audience, your brand, your industry. I think when it comes to call to actions, the best thing for you to do is leverage like a heat map tracking tool like Crazy Egg to just see and test around and maybe A/B test your pages to understand like, hey, if I put this call to action right after the TLDR, if I put this call to action a little bit deeper into my content, where are people interacting with it more? So it may just come down to some testing. And I'll kick it over to William.
Great. So now that you kind of have a better idea of what's happening to your traffic, let's kind of get into what you can do about it. So SEO isn't dead. You know, we always hear that SEO is dead or dying, whether it was a local map pack or a featured snippet. AI overviews and generative AI is that new one that people are talking about. SEO is not dead, but it is mutating. And, you know, this is, in my opinion, a more significant disruption than some of the other modules that have entered SERPs, partially because it's not just a new module in the SERP with an AI overview. You're also, people are using things that aren't Google, ChatGPT or Perplexity or Claude or whatever. So you still need to know exactly how these platforms are interpreting your website, your data, to make sure that you can optimize to the best of your ability to make sure that you're showing up as much as you possibly can. While a lot of traditional SEO methods do kind of overlap with how to optimize for AI, it's not everything. And one of the first things you should do is kind of know where you're at. So when you need to see what your footprint is now, how much traction you have now. As we see an increase in usage in AI platforms and Gemini and Google AI overviews, a lot of clients of ours that have been doing traditional SEO properly are getting cited right away. And so we don't have to dig themselves out of they don't have to dig themselves out of a hole. We don't have to start from scratch. We can utilize the traction that they already have to capitalize on to make sure that they're mentioned even more. Some of the tools that you can use, Profound, Scrunch, Otterly, these are some of the most common ones that have emerged in the marketplace. Here at NP Digital, we are utilizing Profound for a lot of our clients to make sure that we understand exactly where our clients are showing up in all of the AI platforms. So, going off of that, so with many others like SEMrush, Ahrefs, everyone's kind of racing to the finish line here, offering expensive add-ons to help identify visibility in AI overviews. What is NP Digital, Ubersuggest going to be able to do for smaller budgets? And that's really what we're focusing on. So we have, we're a global brand. We have a global AI committee that meets on a regular basis. I'm working very closely with Ubersuggest to ensure that we can properly scale out a solution for the small to medium business market. Those tools like Profound, they're relatively expensive. And we want to make sure that we can provide a similar product to the wider audience. And so that's what we're working on, and we're quickly developing, but we want to make sure we do it right as well. So here's kind of what Profound and Scrunch tools can see. And what's important to note here is that it's not just tracking brand mentions, which it does, keywords, but it's not necessarily just about searching a keyword on something like ChatGPT. People are having conversations with these platforms. You don't just need to be cited in the initial prompt. You need to be cited for the follow-up prompt and the one after that and the one after that. You want to be cited as much as possible in the entire conversation to build that trust with users and show them that you are the right solution for what they're asking about and what they're trying to solve. So what's really good about these tools is that they don't just go surface layer. It's not about optimizing for one keyword, showing up for one keyword in an AI platform. You have to show up for an entire conversation.
And very soon, you're going to see a lot of these features within Ubersuggest and Answer the Public, and a lot of them will be freemium, where you can do a lot for free without having to pay $400 or $500 a month.
So some of the things that do change a little bit, building answer first pages that actually show up. And so what we're going to talk about a lot is the difference between, what on-page SEO means in the era of AI, what off-page means, what technical means. Part of this is making sure that you are structuring things properly for how AI interprets content. And AI interprets content in chunks. So you need to kind of chunk out your content, and kind of similar to when you optimize for featured snippets, you need to have a very clear question and a very clear answer that is contextually relevant to the rest of the content on the page. Answer it directly. Don't beat around the bush. You don't need any fluff. And make sure that you're also optimizing for what AI is producing. Is it a listicle? Is it a couple of sentences? To make sure that you're kind of giving the AI what it needs for the intent of the query that it's interpreting. And so part of how to do that is with schema markup. I did see a comment on our LinkedIn post from David that was saying, hey, hopefully this conference isn't, or this webinar isn't just about schema, because that's not an AI strategy. No, but it is part of it. And what I mean by that is, just like traditional Google algorithms, you want to send as many clear signals to LLMs as you possibly can. And one of those clear signals you can send is with structured data, FAQ schema, review schema, article, organization, company, same as schema. And so while it's not the end all be all, you're not going to automatically get cited in AI if you do have structured data or schema markup. It's an additional clear signal to those automations of LLMs and algorithms to make sure that you're communicating more effectively with these things you're trying to optimize for. So, like I said, review blocks, great. FAQs are excellent. Review blocks are particularly important because LLMs are doing more of a sentiment analysis to make sure that you're not just showing up places, you're showing up positively in places, you're providing a good experience. And so those LLMs can trust your business more. And then it'll be more confident in citing you in those sources. And so when they're crawling things like Yelp or Google Business Reviews or whatever industry specific platform you might be on, those are important seeds to LLMs that they're going to be crawling. And so the more positive your reputation is, as far as review count, review velocity, review quality, is going to be very important moving forward. Not that it wasn't before, but it's just more of the same. And a lot of what we're going to be talking about is not necessarily completely different tactics, but how things are weighted differently in LLMs. Also, like I said, people aren't searching a keyword. They're not searching best pizza near me. They're searching and having a conversation with long tail question-based queries. And so think of it like you're not even trying to rank for one long tail question-based query. You're trying to understand what the intent of that question is, and create that topic cluster and make sure that you're addressing all of the questions within that topic cluster. And so that way, when people are having that question and that follow-up question and the one after, you're addressing each part of that conversation and can be cited in each one of them. And these are, that's a lot of words. So if you're still doing traditional keyword research, looking at a specific volume for a specific keyword and gauging your success on whether or not you're cited in an AI platform, that's not really the right mindset to move forward with. And like I said, with like Yelp and Google My Business Reviews, these are important seeds that LLMs use to analyze sentiment and authority. And YouTube is also a very large one. So especially for Gemini, which is the AI system that Google AI Overviews is based on. So each LLM right now is actually weighting different authoritative sites very differently. And right now for Google and AI Overviews, YouTube is a very significant one of those. But also make sure that when you are generating videos, they are short and sweet. The attention span doesn't necessarily increase with video as much, as much as you might think when you're comparing against text. And so if you are trying to get in AI Overviews, just know that Google is liking its own properties. And if you are dropping in ranks, you might want to consider adding a little bit of budget to boosted video. And so that's one thing that I don't like as a VP of SEO is that, I might have to go out of pocket a little bit in different channels and diversify a little bit more than I have in the past. That's okay. You have to evolve with the times. And part of evolving with the times is a diversification of channels to make sure that, okay, I dropped a little here, but what can I do so if I dropped in AI Overviews in Google Ranks, how can I get cited more in ChatGPT? Or how can I get back into AI Overviews by making sure that my videos are being seen more and I'm getting the metrics I need on YouTube in order to be able to be cited again? And so strategically and surgically using a budget in order to make sure that you're targeting what you need to get that engagement back to where it needs to be to show up in your industry is becoming a more prevalent feature. So off-page LLM optimization. So one thing when I talked about ranking factors and citation factors being weighted differently. Google has been for a while trying to get away from HTML blue links inside of content and figuring out different ways that they can gauge that authority. And that's because people can try to game that. There's a lot of spam with it. LLMs have done a much better job, in my opinion, with weighting mentions properly, and especially when it's contextual within a piece of authoritative content. And so while blue links are still very effective and links are still important, LLMs don't need an HTML link in the source code to know that that is a vote of confidence and authority from that website. It can be a contextual mention in a positive manner of your brand. The good thing about this is that people nowadays are more likely to just mention a brand than they are to give you a link, because they know everyone's trying to get links wherever they can for SEO purposes. And so you can have a natural like digital PR campaign and get a lot more mentions than you would traditional links. And with LLMs, that's going to be weighted more significantly. So that really what we're talking about when we say brand mentions are weighted more significantly is that we're talking about brand authority being measured in a different kind of way. That brand authority is that sentiment analysis that LLMs can do across the web and make sure that you have the authority within your industry, a positive experience within your industry, and make sure that you're able to service or be able to be cited confidently in LLMs. And how you do this is, digital PR and authority building are SEO essentials. They always have been for really competitive spaces. But now it's, yes, you need to have really good quality content that differentiates you from everyone else publishing content. It needs to be chunked out properly for conversational AI. But you still need to build that authority off page. And you can do that kind of more effectively than, in my opinion, than in recent years, because you're not trying to get a link count. You're not saying, a lot of people, are still worried about DR, DA, authority scores. And that's getting less and less significant as LLMs are able to interpret the context and authority of the places that are talking about you without that direct kind of line with an HTML link. So and this is what I've been talking about is, you don't need to chase the backlinks. Doesn't care about domain rating, focus on the brand mentions more, and, make sure that you're capitalizing on it now, because the market for brand mentions will get saturated and flooded like the link market and link supply has. Everyone that's been doing SEO knows that links are valuable. And so people try to buy them. People try to create their own public blog networks to try to create their own authoritative links. They've tried every trick in the book to try to get links. People in your industry and your competitors might not be doing that yet. And so right now is the time to say, hey, if I focus more on brand mentions, I might be future-proofing my brand more significantly, and I might be able to get an edge on my competitors. And yeah, building topical trust. Sorry, we're getting short on time, so I got to try to make these couple of slides quick. So the topical trust is important as well. It's not just brand trust and brand authority, but you still need to know what you're talking about. And Google's done a good job of this in the past, and it's not going away. So it's not just about, hey, I have the content, so why am I not ranking? It has to be better than the other content out there. And so how can you make it better? And a part of the ways to make sure that you can have your content kind of be better is have proprietary data, have fresh stats, cite reputable sources, keep content up to date, freshness. So make sure that, this is a way on the SMB side we can compete with big brands, is because an enterprise brand, might not be able to pivot and refresh a piece of content as quickly and be as agile as we are. And if you have data that is proprietary to you that you can utilize for a thoughtful piece of content, no one else can possibly have that. And so now you've differentiated yourself in a different way as well. So, that's kind of that's what we're talking about, is there's optimizing for AI and there's kind of optimizing for humans. The Venn diagram, the overlap is pretty significant, but it's still very important to know how AI might be reacting in a different way. So don't bury the lead. Don't bury the takeaway. Make sure that you are addressing the intent of a prompt or a query of a user immediately, and make sure that your content is structured appropriately as well, by being concise, helpful, and almost conversational in the way that you're chunking it out. So here's kind of really quickly how the different platforms, like I mentioned, are weighting things differently. Gemini, it's YouTube, it's mainstream media, and structured blog content, and also Reddit. Obviously, if you've searched anything in the last year, Reddit, Google weighs pretty significantly as well. With ChatGPT, they pull heavily from Wikipedia, government sources, and educational content. So ChatGPT tends to lean more authority and not as much what Google calls hidden gems, like within user-generated content like Reddit, or its own properties like YouTube. Wikipedia and government sources tend to get cited more on ChatGPT. Perplexity, for those of you who don't know, is an up-and-coming AI. It also relies kind of heavily on niche blogs, Reddit, and expert community content. And what that is that user-generated content that Reddit does a pretty good job of. You can create your own user-generated content on your website as well. And figuring out a solution that's effective can really make you blow up in the space. So model-specific optimization, like I said, different platforms right now are weighting things differently. And because of that, you need to be aware of how they're weighting those different seeds or those different authority sites. But, that will probably smooth out in the future, but that's not where we're at right now. Gemini 2.5 is kind of what Google's new platform. Blog style content, Google seems to rely more on finding that fact or that new piece of information that that nobody else has. And so if you can make sure to pull that, you're going to win more often.
All right. Thank you, William. Let's go through part 3. You have to start diversifying as a brand. So obviously, we talked a lot about different organic tactics that you could be taking to help better leverage AIO or LLMs and try and get yourself cited. But the other side of this whole coin is if it's going to take you some time to really put those tactics into effect, then you can immediately start kind of paying to reach that audience and essentially go through paid advertising channels to help spruce back up your traffic, your conversions, and things like that. So even though Google is starting to own distribution when it comes to becoming a publisher, they also own the distribution of your ads within different platforms within their network. You need to start better optimizing and owning the attention once your ad is displayed. So that means growing your first-party data and paid reach in parallel with all the organic tactics that we're talking about, and start thinking more like a publisher, not a marketer. What we essentially mean by that comment is if you're a publisher or publishers, that they're always hunting for the best answer, the best information to really cover a topic in depth and try and remove bias as much as possible. So try and think like that when it comes to your brand, when it comes to ads that you're serving, information that you're serving in those ad platforms, organic strategies that you're putting together. Really go in depth. Why paid media is now essential. So organic traffic is declining. but not because of performance, but just because of your placement loss. We've talked a lot about that today. But paid search still lets you fill that visibility gap where AI has taken over. You need to start spending strategically on commercial intent terms and bottom of funnel queries. I know a lot of people still to this day want to run paid search ads on the most short tail keywords because they're going after a big volume play. But even as well as SEO, paid is being affected by these long tail query conversational type of terms. And you want to start optimizing your paid campaigns towards those as well. And every click now costs more, but can deliver higher intent and higher conversions if they land. You'll see a quick graph on the right that just explains ROI based on ad spend. You will see there's a little bit of diminishing returns as you start scaling up, just because there's only so much market share in certain industries. But again, you need to start focusing on just total profit and as well as ROI from these campaigns. Buy back your visibility with search ads. So target keywords your content used to rank for and hopefully is still converting around. Combine branded and non-branded terms to protect share of voice, and use exact match and audience signals to reduce your wasted ad spend. Also, start leveraging PMax, guys. I think PMax is something Google has started to push a lot in recent years. It's basically leveraging Google's AI within ads to better serve across different ad formats, as well as Gemini within the platform to help deliver smarter campaigns. So ad creative insights can equal faster feedback loops on what's working. It's just a faster way of generating ad creative. Use PMax to deploy across multiple platforms within Google's network. We're talking YouTube, Display, Discover. And let Gemini's output inform your creative and help refine it with your brand voice and add that human touch after the fact. Again, just like writer's block, I know creatives also face some form of creative block. Gemini can help you generate a lot more creative within your PMax campaigns and within your ad platform. So try and give it a chance. Optimization now starts at the asset, not just the ad group. So again, trying to create the best form of assets, whether those be your landing pages, your display assets, your remarketing assets. Really put time into optimizing those and try to create multiple versions and A/B test them to help drive the most show rate, impression rate, and click-through rate. Paid social as a defensive move. So this is pretty big, guys. We all know organic social reach is fairly unreliable. I know personally, like on Instagram or Facebook, when you create organic posts over the years, we have really seen the organic reach diminish even to your own followers. But the way that you can help supersede that is by boosting those posts or creating more paid placements within these platforms to help control when attention starts to become scarce from your organic side of posting. Social platforms are increasingly AI ranked. So the better the creative, the better the reach. Creative quality now dictates your paid reach. This is going back to what I was saying before within PMax. So ad relevance and user engagement directly impact the delivery and deliverability rate of your ads within different platforms. AI engines now prioritize usefulness, not just your budget for the amount of clicks. Better assets get algorithmic preference across Meta, Google, and LinkedIn. And lazy ads are just getting ignored by AI nowadays, guys. Just running a campaign for months on end and not optimizing it, or just optimizing negative keywords or things like that, but never really paying attention to your landing pages, your quality scores, your creative assets, and really A/B testing things on a consistent basis to find what your audience is interacting the most with is starting to hurt you. So the algorithms know when you're just kind of phoning it in and just being lazy. Templated copy, stock visuals, vague call to actions are getting deprioritized. Treat paid ads like content marketing instead of just your traffic drivers. And in content marketing, we're always trying to produce new content, new ideas. Try and think again like a publisher, not just a marketer. Bold, relevant, and tailored assets are starting to stand out now more than ever. So try and think outside the box. Be a little bit more creative and test things, guys. If something doesn't work, then switch it out and test it for something else. But don't be gun shy to test something new. You never know what may be the next most impactful format within your audience. I'm going to kick it over to Will to talk a little bit more about first-party data.
All right, lightning round. We talked a lot about paid in SEO, but that first-party data that I mentioned, you can create good content around. You also have first-party data like an email list or social followers, something like that, where Google doesn't have control over it. And if you build your own audience and they are engaging with you on multiple channels or a diverse range of channels, you're protecting yourself in the long run. Now, you might need SEO or paid to get that email list, but it's important to control as much of your data as possible. And so also when you're trying to build an email list or something like that, the kinds of things that used to work don't necessarily work as effectively anymore. Generic ebooks for tools, quizzes, calculators, gated research. Hey, put in your email and you'll get my white paper. Users are getting kind of more jaded by that. So right now it's more of that identifying the intent and creating an asset that is really going to answer exactly what a user is asking, and that they have confidence that this piece of content will answer it, and that and incentivizing them to want to have follow-ups, but with an email campaign or something like that. So when you need to build a customer data platform, a CDP that connects the behavior across email, site, ad channels, one thing that's really important now is stitching together your data across channels. While you may have lost some clicks in organic, maybe you saw a correlation with clicks increasing for direct or social referrals or ChatGPT referrals. And what is that traffic doing? And how does that correlate with your drop? Is SEO dying because you've taken a 20% hit? Or did that traffic, are users interacting with your data in a different way through an AI platform that is then they're going through a different channel? So make sure that you have a comprehensive, stitched together look at all of your data of your customers. So email and SMS channels Google can't touch. Like I mentioned before, it's your data, it's your list. You can do with it what you want. It protects you, and diversifying channels is never a bad thing when you can. So brand building on LinkedIn for influencer search. So another channel that to consider is influencer marketing. LinkedIn has been particularly beneficial for us and some of our clients. And LinkedIn is also, like I said, an authoritative seed in LLMs. And so if you can build out your traction or your engagement on LinkedIn, that can be very beneficial, especially for a B2B market. YouTube, it's the most cited source in Gemini and AI overviews. We already touched on this, and we're running out of time. So, Reddit and forums is a new type of SEO asset. These authoritative seeds. I can't say this enough. Is know what are the most cited websites of the platforms you want to be on, and make sure you are on those platforms. And then influencer and affiliate SEO as a visibility strategy. So, while influencer marketing traditionally doesn't give you a lot of direct conversion, neither do AI platforms. And as the marketing industry gets kind of fractionalized a bit more, you need to show up everywhere you can. And so channels that you thought didn't work before because they weren't bottom of funnel direct conversion channels, you might want to revisit.
So let's wrap things up and get into Q&A. Look, your traffic still exists. It's just rerouted. A lot of people are doing research on these platforms before they go over to your website. And you can't be playing by 2022's rules. AI doesn't really care about CTR. They now care more so about things like value, clarity, authority, structure. These are the main things that are really important with your content that marketers aren't used to focusing on. And you need to adapt your content for how machines read. The way we look at content in today's world, it's all about how the easiest way to look at it is you got to write for humans and package for AI. And the path forward, is you need to continually create more influence. Will talked a little about this before he handed it over to me, because influence will get you more impressions, which will get you more brand awareness and get you more people coming over to your site and eventually converting. And of course, if you need help with getting more organic traffic and adapting to this new world of AI, you can always reach out to us at NP Digital. Or you can just scan the QR code with your phone and it'll take you to the website, or you can just go to npdigital.com. All right, Colin, let's get in some questions. I know we're running over, but
yeah, so
a lot
of the same questions. So I'm going to ask the bigger ones that people asked over and over again. So Matt, I think it was you that said optimize for experience, not just entry. Are we talking about simple things like load time, etc.? Like, could you please go a little bit deeper into that?
Yeah, so I think it's several different things. I think now more than ever, conversion rate optimization needs to become a big part of your marketing mix. Without knowing and testing and understanding what people are interacting with the most on your website, by just literally keeping a page and just hoping for the best and just randomly optimizing over time, you're going to be shooting yourself in the foot. So it comes down to A/B testing. It comes down to optimization of the content. Like I said before, add TLDRs towards the top of some of your blog posts, add tables of content, add more numbered and bulleted lists, add schema as much as possible into different areas of your website, product schema, how-to schema, article schema, author bio schema. There's all different formats of schema that you could be leveraging. And then on top of that, try and find more creative ways to inject better content for EEAT. I think one of the big things that we do at our division, both NP Digital and NP Excel, is we offer what's called a comprehensive guide. So we may take a really good performing blog and we may go super deep and write potentially 5,000 to 10,000 words and split that up. It's like a hub and spoke model where you kind of have like your overview and then different chapters, and they're all interlinking to one another to almost make like a guide, like some sort of universal evergreen piece of content that is extremely authoritative, that people want to mention and link back to, that LLMs will want to cite and source content from. So there's a lot of different things you could be doing to help optimize the experience on your website.
Thank you so much for that. Here's another one, and this kind of tricky. How can these tools show a company's name in AI summaries when the summary is expressly generated for the user in their history? Is this directional in nature? I mean, it's sort of like what we've been dealing with Google and personalization for like a long time, right? Like visibility is sort of directional in nature because everyone's result is somewhat personalized. So any like comment or feedback there. And then there was another question, and I know that we're doing this, like what should we be doing given that? Should we be looking at stuff like referral traffic to get like a better understanding as to like what's actually coming from these LLMs? And maybe it's two questions, and maybe we start with Will and then Matthew if you want to pile on, or Matthew, you go first.
Yeah, I can take the first one. I think Will has a lot of experience on the second part of things with referral traffic. What we've seen, because we've started to test a lot of different platforms for AI visibility tracking, and across the board, what they're basically doing, because you're right, a lot of searches are going to bring up different citations. So for a given query or a given conversational element, they're trying to basically run 100, if not up to like 2,000 searches to best take the aggregate or the average of what they're seeing from citations from all of those for that same query. So that's in a short way how these platforms are kind of running their algorithms. And that's probably why you're seeing them as so expensive right now, is because running those queries so many times on something like ChatGPT does cost a lot of money.
Yeah, and then digging in a little bit more there. So with the referral traffic, yes, definitely you need to be aware of that. So, we've I have an executive dashboard with all of our clients' data anonymized, and we segmented out all of the AI referrers. So I can see exactly what that traffic is doing and how that traffic is increasing over time compared to what's happening on the SEO side. If you look it up, I published an article on Search Engine Land about this a little while ago. And so segmenting out your referral traffic for the kind of channels that you're targeting, whether that's generative AI platforms, social media, whatever you want to do there, is going to be a good way to get a more comprehensive picture of what your traction is for your brand online.
Awesome response. And thank you, Matt. I was unaware of the hundreds, if not thousands, of sort of like related queries or prompts or keywords, whatever it is. So last question, because I know we are late, and a good one. How do we identify content that is relevant for the audience in AI search? Is there an AI equivalent of keyword research? Is it one and the same? Like, the script has been sort of flipped. Are we doing keyword research? Are we prompt researching these days? Like,
it's very similar. A prompt is like a keyword. It's like a query someone's typing in. If you look at the keywords people are typing in, it's no longer credit cards. It's more like, what's the best credit card for a college student who has who's never had a credit card and has little to no credit rating, right? So you're getting very specific with your keywords, and you're going to start seeing a lot of that data integrated into Ubersuggest and Answer the Public within the next 2 months. On top of that, you can start seeing a lot of that data through what is it called? Google Search Console, because you can start seeing the longer tail search queries that people are using to find you. And then in addition to that, you can actually do a lot of prompt researching and querying from platforms like ChatGPT. They can end up suggesting you prompts. You know, we're tapping into their APIs, which then gives you access to a lot of that prompt. Not necessarily data on search volume, but it gives you access to a lot of the prompts that would be relevant that you could start optimizing for.
Yeah, and just kind of a quick tip to better optimize for these topic clusters. If you're not sure what those follow-up prompts are, ask the AI. You can tell it to fan out, which is going to give you, you say, hey, fan out the next 5 most common follow-up questions to the prompt I just asked. And now you have a better idea. If you're trying to optimize for that, there are some, not to get too geeky here, but there are some tactics now to kind of give you objective scores. Some of that is natural language processing and entity salience. And now we're looking at and building out tools for vector embeddings and cosine similarity relevance as well to help kind of at scale give us objective scores on how well our content is optimized in LLMs for those topic clusters that we're targeting based on that research we're doing within them.
Thanks for not nerding out on us, Will.
Well,
that's how
everyone, thank you for your time. Sorry for the delay. If you ever need help with your marketing, check us out at npdigital.com. Cheers.